Good evening and welcome back to Roman Times, 1 Eye, 2 Eye, 3 Eye. My name is Caesarius. Tonight's story takes us to the conclusion of what has been a gruesome manslaughter of a young nation. We will see actual scenes from the first two Punic Wars where it is obvious that some sort of conquest was at hand on either side. Then we will take you live to the ending of the third and what hopes to be the last of these Punic Wars. There now is Report a Maxima.
Thanks, Caesarius. As you can see behind me, or what's left behind me, was once a thriving Carthage community. We're Romans, so we haven't yet approached any of the Carthaginians to talk to them about what just happened. We should be approaching them momentarily, but we'll get back to you in the studio as soon as we can. Back to you, Caesarius.
Thank you, Report a Maxima. It does look horrific down there, and we will be back with you in just a few moments. But first, I will show you a few scenes from the First Punic War. The time, the second half of the 3rd century, in 264 BC, the Romans and Carthaginians met for the first time in battle. The locals of Messina had asked for our aid, and for several reasons we gave it to them. At first, Carthage proved stronger than us in the sea around Sicily. Their boats were smaller and faster, but we counterattacked with a larger navy fleet. This proved glorious for the Romans because in 256 Carthage was put under siege. Then Carthaginians defeated the Romans mainly because of Hamilcar. But in 241 BC at the Battle of Agates Islands, we defeated the Carthaginians so badly they requested peace. With that loss, the Carthaginians were forced to leave Sicily, pay us a huge indemnity, and we took over Sicily. Here are a few scenes from that footage. Carthage, a once thriving civilization, in 264 BCE, went into battle with Rome, and things changed forever.
At first, it appeared Carthage had the upper hand. Having smaller, quicker boats allowed them to move around us more easily. Is that it? The fleet was all but destroyed. Carthage, believing they had the upper hand, headed towards them. finally, Rome sends a whole fleet, fresh, with bloodthirsty meat puppets to the aid. With our navy refreshed, we had no problem finishing off the already wicked Carthaginians. When the Carthaginians wiped out, Sicily was easily besieged.
And thus, the conclusion of the First Punic War.
There you saw it, ladies and gentlemen, a war that truly was a war. It followed all the previous Roman conquests in the sense that it was for the betterment of Rome. Just like two bulls in the same pasture, eventually they would fight for dominance and control. Then, in 218 BCE, the Second Punic War went underway. After such a disgraceful loss to the Romans, the Carthaginians, who were still bitter, led by Hannibal, son of Hamilcar, marched over the Alps and into Rome to lay siege on the Roman Empire. We would have surely lost if Hannibal had continued to attack Rome after defeating us severely at Cannae in 216 BCE. Macedonians, under Philip V, aided the Carthaginians, making their forces even greater. Hannibal had discovered a fighting strategy called the flank that the Romans had never seen before. It allowed the Romans to march straight up the center like they always did, and then they would surround them on all sides and from behind. It wasn't until our very own Quintus Fabius Maximus sent Scipio with a well-trained army to meet Hannibal in 202 BCE, where they defeated Hannibal's army at Zama. The victory earned Scipio the title of Africanus, which he is still called till today. Carthage was forced to give all claims to Spain up, and their amount of ships were reduced to 10. Here's some footage from that scene, from the Second Punic War.
Thanks again, Caesarius. We're here now approaching the heartbroken Carthaginians after the war, and we're going to ask a few of them their feelings on the war. Excuse me, sir. Can I have a moment of your time? Just bother you, but I'd just like to ask you a few questions about the war.
As you can see, my town is destroyed and I've lost my family, but I guess I could give you a minute.
Thanks. I won't take long. I was just wondering, did you expect a war of this magnitude?
No. The Romans had nothing on us. I was just farming like I usually do, which was taught to me by my father. And my grandfather was in the Second Punic War, and it was like they came and destroyed us for no reason. It was total devastation, and it was uncalled for.
For nearly 50 years, we've lived in a suit of peace with each other. During that time, did you ever hear or think of a war at this time?
No, never.
As you see, this is the devastation here in Carthage. Now back to you in the studio, Caesarius.
This is the beginning of the Second Punic War. Hannibal marched his men over the Alps and into Rome. He surprised the Romans through the notorious use of the flank formation. At first, the battle was gruesome and bloody. The Carthaginians were able to build a lead on the Romans. The Romans, using sheer numbers, eventually regained control. It's the end of the Second Punic War. Due to the supply of mass numbers of Roman troops, they stormed and burned Carthage.
There you saw again a battle the Romans were forced to fight and still won. We were obviously stronger than the Carthaginians, and for 50 years we did not bother them, nor did we get bothered by them. Then, 3 years ago, for no apparent reason, we asked our allies, the Massinicians, to revoke Carthage so we could have a reason to fight. And now, we take you to the Roman Forum where Maxima Reporta is there to interview Cato the Elder and Scipio Aemilianus.
We're standing outside of the Roman Forum where Scipio Aemilianus and Cato the Legend are discussing the previous war. Let's go ask them some questions. Hello. May I discuss the war with you? Ask you a few questions?
Sure.
Scipio, being Africanus' grandson, how do you feel being responsible for the Carthaginian destruction?
Yeah, it runs in the family. That's what we're good at. Scumbags got what they deserve.
Okay. Were both of you personally interested in keeping Carthage from becoming strong again? Or were you in favor of war for the sheer enjoyment of it?
Yeah, if they wouldn't have attacked us at the beginning of the Second Punic War, you think there would have been a third one?
Domination. We're Roman. All we want to do is fight.
What are your plans for after everything is settled down from this war? Are you planning on capturing more territory elsewhere?
If we can find some, sure we'll take it.
All right.
Want it all.
Back to Caesarius in the newsroom.
Thank you, Maxima Reporter. No wonder so many people think that Romans are cocky and arrogant, but they did have a good point. If the Carthaginians had never tried attacking us in the Second Punic War, would there have been a Third Punic War? Nobody knows for sure, but we do know that Romans love fighting and being in control. Can you blame us? You decide. Until next time, this is Caesarius with Roman Times, 1i, 2i, 3i, signing off. Thanks for tuning in.
And listen.